Well, welcome project management students to the 7th video on Microsoft Project. In this video, we'll continue our look at resources by specifically looking at allocating and resolving any overallocated resources that we may have. If you recall in video 6, we showed you how to overall shorten your schedule using concurrent scheduling as well as adding leads and lags, and then also how to set up the resource sheet. In video 6, we went through the first 3 steps. We learned how to delete the reoccurring task. We also looked at how to shorten your schedule using concurrent scheduling as well as adding leads and lags. And then lastly, we also learned how to enter the resources into the resource sheet. In this video, video 7, we'll continue on by allocating those resources, resolving any overallocated resources. We'll also then reinsert the reoccurring task, and once again, we'll save it. A very important part of all of this. So let's take a look at our Microsoft project file. And here we have a look at the resource sheet. If you recall, we entered these resources from the in-class example that we were working off of, and they included Tom, Joe, Alice, Betty, Jackie. We had some material resources of wood and cable, as well as a cost resource of being the Bobcat, or the tool that is used to create the deliverable. So let's start allocating these resources. And how do we know who to allocate to what? Well, it's back on the WBS. You recall that each of those work packages and deliverables had an individual or material assigned to them. So that is what we will be focusing on as we go through this. And we'll want to do this in the Gantt chart view. So, how do we start doing this? You'll notice that Microsoft Project has added a resource column to your file. If you highlight one of these and you click down, you'll see all of the various resources that we have entered into our resource sheet. But be careful. This is where you want to be careful. Summary bars, which are these black bars, such as line 1, 2, 4, do not have resources allocated to them. Only the blue bar, only the task bars, such as 3, 5, and 6 have resources. Of course, the other ones do as well. So summary bars do not have resources allocated to them, and the task bars do. Now, do we add resources to milestones? Now, there isn't any specific rule on this, but I'll be quite candid. I like to add a resource onto milestones. The reason we don't add them, let's go back to summary bars, is you'll see that this is 19 days. If we allocate a resource, they will be allocated over those entire 19 days, which is really a summation of all the various work packages that are being done for that particular deliverable or the project. With regards to milestones, they have a 0 duration. Therefore, will it impact the overall budget or availability of a resource if it's not allocated any days? And the answer to that is no. Therefore, what I like to do with milestones is, if you recall, on each of the deliverables there is an individual assigned to it. I like to add that resource to the milestone, indicating who is responsible for that deliverable. So for like deliverable 1, Joe is responsible for overall. I'll add Joe to the milestone 1. So with that, let's get started. Line 1, since it's a summary bar, we do not allocate. Deliverable 1, since it is a summary bar, we also do not allocate. Work package 1.1, we do allocate, and that Joe is allocated to this particular task. So you can go down and click on Joe. And as I click away, his name will be added here, and it will also be added over here behind. And you can see Joe is there. Now, deliverable 1.2, we do not, because that is a summary bar. Work package 1.2.1, we have Tom and Alice. So click on Tom and click on Alice. And you'll see that Tom's only available 75% of the time there. Remember, when we were entering these, Tom was only going to be working on our project 75% of the time. He wasn't available 100%. Work package 2.2, we have Alice. And when we click away, notice over here in the indicator column, a little red guy will show up. And they did. These little red guys are the menace of this whole process. This indicates that you have an over-allocated resource. And we'll figure that one out. First of all, let's just go through and allocate all of our resources. Milestone 1, remember there's no specific rule here, but I do like adding it because it indicates who is responsible for deliverable 1, and that would be Joe. Work deliverable 2 does not have anyone allocated to it, but work package 2.1 does. Now I'm going to show you another way to do this. You can do this in the task information pop-up box. If you come here, you go to the resource tab, you can click on and who you want to add. 2.1 has Alice and also Betty. And you can see they have been added there. It's a little bit more time consuming, but it's kind of an interesting way of doing it. Work package 2.2 has Betty assigned to it. Tom is an alternate for that particular one. And milestone 2, we also have Betty, because she is the individual that is overseeing that particular project. We haven't entered the material resources yet. We'll get to that in a second. And then in work package or deliverable 3, we do not. 3.1, we have Jackie and Betty. And in 3.2.1, we have Jackie, work package 3.1 also has Alice. 3.2.2, I'm sorry, has Alice. And then milestone 3, we have Jackie. And with that, we have allocated all of our work resources. Now, we do have some material resources and cost resources that we need to allocate as well. You see in Work Package 1.2.1, we have 250 board feet of wood that is being allocated there. So let's go to Work Package 1.2.1. This is where we have to do it in the task information pop-up box. And we're going to add wood. But you'll notice over here in the units column, he is only available, we only have one board feet. We need 2,500, so we need to add 2,500 to that. And you can see that 2,500 board feet of wood have been allocated to Work Package 2.1. We also have 5 spools of cable that we need for 2.2. We have to do this in the task information box because if we cannot do it in the resource column because we need to add the units. So let's add cable. And it always comes up 1 unit, and so now we need to add 5 there. And I don't see the bobcat allocated, but let's just say, for example, we need a bobcat in 3.2.1. And you can do this just here on the drop down. And with that, we have now allocated all of our resources. But we do have some issues to contend with. Over here in the indicator column, we see all of the various little red guys. And these indicate that there is an overallocation of work resources. Material resources cannot be overallocated, as well as cost resources cannot be overallocated. So these really represent only work resources. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways. This is where it kind of becomes, if you recall, I said the jigsaw puzzle of Microsoft Project. Trying to figure out the shortest possible schedule, fully utilizing your resources, which is what your objective is here. You'll notice that we have about a month long schedule here. If you go to the view, resource tab, of course, that's where it should be anyway. You can see you can reallocate a specific resource, or you can level all. These 2 buttons here will allow you to get rid of any of those over allocations. So let's see what happened to the overall duration when I click on level all. It went out by almost a week. That's something that's not acceptable for me in this project. Therefore, I'm going to undo that and bring it back. So let's take a look. If you hover, the other way to resolve any allocated resource is to hover over the little red guy and right click. And you'll see the first thing is Fix in Task Inspector. Click on that. What Microsoft Project is doing is looking for alternatives to assist you in resolving that overallocation. Now we can reschedule the task, but again, take a look. It will extend it out by 2 days. We don't want to do that, if possible. Let's take a look at our team planner. Your team planner will become your best friend. And unfortunately, you have Microsoft Project Professional, which includes the team planner. if you had Project Standard, it does not include the Team Planner. So if you're working in Standard, be aware that the Team Planner is not a part of it. So let's click on the Team Planner. And look at this. It's really a handy thing. It really points out everybody that is over-allocated by putting those individuals in red brackets and when they are. So we have Alice, who is allocated to both Work Package 1.2.1 and 1.2.2 here. This is where you may want to start taking some notes. So Alice is the over-allocated resource there for Work Package 1.2.1 and 1.2.2. Now, who else is available during that time? Well, Joe is, as well as Betty and Jackie. Now, each of these resources, you have to remember, have very specific talents and skills that are unique to each of them. Not everybody can do each and every task in a project. They can only really do a couple of tasks per chance. Let's say that this particular task involves developing some software, and Alice has to be involved in that. And let's also say that Joe and Betty can also assist with this. But Alice is the lead. She needs to be involved. So Alice, but doesn't have to be full-time on it. So let's bring Alice down to 50% working on each of those tasks and adding Joe to 1. Let's add Joe to 1.2.1, and let's add Betty to 1.2.2. So let's go back to our Gantt chart view, and let's bring up Work Package 1.2.2. We've decided that Alice will only be working 50% of her time on this. So let's change that to 50. You'll notice that when I did that, it will give you this little warning sign. Click on the down arrow. Change the duration. It will give you a couple of different options. You change the hours resource work per hour. Do you want to change the duration but keep the amount of work the same, or change the amount of work and keep the duration the same? We want to change the duration. And you notice it extended it out a little bit. We're out now a couple of days. But we also decided that Joe could assist Betty with this particular task. So let's add Joe to this task. And you'll see that we have this little thing here again, and we want to reduce the duration but keep the same amount of work. We always want to keep the same amount of work. And so now it brought us back down again. But we still have the little red guys, which indicates that we haven't changed Alice to 50% here. So let's change this to 50%. And once again, you see the little warning sign over here. Look for those. Change the duration, but keep the amount of work the same. That's the one we want. And it will disappear once you have reviewed that and made the proper selection. But we also decided that Betty could join in on this one. So click away. Again, we get this little thing, this little warning sign. We want to reduce the duration, but keep the same amount of work. You'll notice, oh my, we have really lost some time there. But we also have a couple other issues down here. So let's go back to so we've taken care of that one. Let's go take a look at this next one. Let's go to the Fixed Task Inspector, and let's look at the Team Planner. Here we have some issues here. Betty is overscheduled here for 2.2 and 3.1. Betty is our individual that we're having some issues with this time. Is 2.2 and 3.1. Again, this is where you might want to start taking some notes. Let's see if there's any other issues here. Don't see anything else going on that could cause a problem. Let's say for 3.1. If you look, Joe was an alternative to Betty. So Betty doesn't have to work on this particular task. Let's add Joe in. So go back to the Team Planner, or back to the Gantt chart view. And in 2.2, we're going to remove Betty and add Joe. And that took care of our over allocations. Isn't that nice? And our overall duration of our project was decreased by 4 days. Can you see where this gets to be a bit of a jigsaw puzzle as you start going through and resolving these over allocations? This can be a lot of fun if you enjoy jigsaw puzzles. So, two last things to do. We have a good schedule. The critical path is showing from beginning to end. All of our predecessors and successors are in line. Remember the old rule and the big do's and don'ts. All work packages or tasks require both a successor and predecessor, except for the very first one that only has a successor, and the last one that only has a predecessor. So with that, let's add back in. Remember that reoccurring task. So click on the line below, go to the task, go to the down button, reoccurring, and we have a status meeting. It has a duration of 1 hour. H. And it occurs on Monday and begins and goes through the end. And we've added those back in. One last thing to do, let's save this. And so, since we have it as a read only, we'll have to add in a video example with resources allocated. And save it. And with that, we have now gone in and allocated those resources and resolved any over allocations. So in video 7, we allocated the resources, we resolved any over allocated resources, we reinserted the reoccurring task once we have resolved everything, and we saved it. So thank you for watching video number 7 on resource and resource allocation. I look forward to seeing you in video 8 on the budget and for your projects. Have a good day.